G'day, how we going? Another year, another Game of the Year awards, and I just wanted to go through the nominees to have a look at them and share the opinion that's totally being asked for by the massive fan base that I have to go with the completely consistent views that I get on my channel. Anyway, yes, just want to share my opinion on these nominees. First up, the esports stuff. And the content creator of the year, I think just get rid of them, to be honest. They don't need to be there. Most anticipated game is also just a bullshit category that doesn't need to exist. And obviously the real answer is Doom the Dark Ages. Best adaptation, I don't really have an opinion because I've only seen 2 episodes of Fallout. It wasn't for me, but I totally recognize why it's enjoyable for a lot of people. Best multiplayer, I think hands down, Helldivers 2. Issues with the balancing aside, because they did have some issues that didn't go well with players. They were nerfing a lot of stuff that was quite fun to use, and just made the game a little bit more tedious. But they've since reversed the decision. But even regarding that happening at some point on release, I had a blast with the game. It was so much fun, and I've gone back to it over the year, and it's still a really enjoyable game to play, especially with friends. And it's not just one of those games that's only enjoyable because it's multiplayer. You know, you look at something like Resident Evil 6. I fucking hate that game, but I had a lot of fun playing it with my sister. I think the core gameplay design of Helldivers 2 in general is just really solid. Every year, the sports and racing category is a little bullshit because it's always just going to be the 2K and EA games that just get thrown in there because they're consistently releasing a game every fucking year. I would remove any one of these though and put in their Parking Garage Rally Circuit, because that is technically a racing game and that is 100% better than all these options. So here's the first big thing I disagree with. Manor Lords being nominated. I don't think early access games should be nominated at all, and I know that's a change, and they've also changed it for DLCs, so we'll see Shadow of the Erdtree come up later. I disagree very heavily. I think that early access games should only be nominated for awards or be looked at when they're actually in full release. So in saying that, take out Manor Lords, chuck in, I don't know, Men of War 2 or Sins of a Solar Empire 2. I'm not terribly familiar with the Men of War series or Gates of Hell Ostfront. I know a lot of the fans prefer the older games rather than Men of War 2, but I've had a really good time with it so far. No comments on Best Family. I've played a small amount of Mario Party Jamboree, and yeah, it's good fun. Mario Party games are very similar, and only heard good things about Astrobot, so I imagine that's going to win the Best Family category easily. Best Fighting, I've got next to no opinion other than Multiverses should not be in here because it was nominated back in 2022 or something. So unless it's in an ongoing category, I don't think it should appear again. And I've played a small amount of Sparking Zero, which, yeah, it's good fun. But, you know, I'm a sucker for Dragon Ball, so it's going to stand out for me. Otherwise, no opinion. Best RPG is very funny because Dragon's Dogma 2 is more like an action game. I would not classify it as an RPG. And even if we're going to stretch it a little, I wouldn't nominate it in general because the game is really bad. I've got a video on that I'll link in the description if I remember, if you want to hear my thoughts on it, but it's not a good game. I definitely would not have nominated it. And like I said before, I disagree with DLCs coming in for nominations unless it's specifically a category for best DLC/expansion. If this was a standalone thing that didn't need the base game, then yeah, sure, chuck it in. Otherwise, I imagine it's going to be Final Fantasy that wins this one. Be surprised if it doesn't. Best Action Adventure is quite funny to see Star Wars Outlaws in there. There's no way that out of all the action adventure games you could have nominated that was the one that stood out. I would really like to see The Lost Crown get the win. Everything I've heard about it and seen, it just looks like such a solid, well-made game, and I would like for that to win to really show Ubisoft, hey, there was something great here. Maybe take a look at it again in the future, because the team sort of got shuffled around to work at other projects within Ubisoft, I believe, just because it didn't sell as well as they'd hoped, which is unfortunate. So it would be nice to see them get an award. Best action game, well, for me, Helldivers 2 easily. Have not played Stellar Blade yet, unfortunately. It does look very cool. Mate that has played it did rate it pretty highly. Space Marine 2, quite fun when you're doing the swarm battles. It is really cool, especially from a technical point of view. It just looks terrific. I wouldn't rate it higher than Helldivers personally. COD, boring. We don't give a shit. Black Myth Wukong, though, I would say it is a good game. I've had fun with it halfway through at the moment. Really need to get back and finish it. Don't know about it being good enough to win an award, though. Unfortunately, I didn't get into any VR at all, and I haven't even been following the VR news. So mobile games aren't real games, but I would give it to Balatro. Big list for the best debut indie games. Animal World, highly, highly rated, as well as Balatro. Manor again, early access, so I wouldn't have nominated it, but it is really good so far. Pacific Drive, had a lot of fun with that so far. Don't know much about the Plucky Squire, so I would take out Manor and nominate Parking Garage Rally Circuit, because that really is just a really fun time and an excellent game. And from everything I've heard, I'd be very surprised if Balatro doesn't win. It just seems to be the most beloved game of the year. Then best independent game, of course, Parking Garage Rally Circuit would be my pick. Best community support, I'm not really a fan of the category in general. Best ongoing is a bit of a weird one, because, to be honest, I think there are some much longer running games that could be looked at. You could throw Warframe in here instead of Destiny 2. Something like Factorio. There's just definitely more options that I would pick personally. Otherwise, I don't really care who wins the award. Doesn't really matter this category. Unfortunately, with Games for Impact, I have only played Hellblade 2, so can't comment on the rest. I don't know much about the level of accessibility in these games. I haven't even really heard anything personally, other than a small amount for Dragon Age. But excellent to see that this keeps coming back, this category, because I think it's really good. The more work that's done in making games accessible, I think the better it is overall for more people. Best performance, heard a lot of good things for Luke Roberts in Silent Hill 2. He plays James. Mate that's playing through the game at the moment says it's been really good, the voice acting so far. My vote would definitely go to Melina, though, because she really just gives it her all in Hellblade 2. Excellent performance. Best audio, lots of good things I've heard with Silent Hill 2. I did play the PS2 version only a couple of weeks ago now, and plan to see how it compared to the remake. So from what I've heard from a mate, the sound design is really good in Silent Hill 2, but Hellblade 2 is just another thing. It is crazy good what they do with the visuals, and even more crazy what they do with the audio design, with the way the voices sort of rotate around your head and the noises they come up with. Is just really fucking cool. So that definitely has my vote. Score and music, I've said it before, you can't go wrong with a Final Fantasy soundtrack. You know, name one in the series that's bad. You can't, or at least as far as I know, you can't. But great music all around, really. So I would imagine Final Fantasy wins, but I think it's solid choices. I do really like seeing Black Myth Wukong here for best art direction, because it's not just the realistic looking graphics that is possible with Unreal Engine 5 or whatever. I imagine if you're just looking at some gameplay, that's what the game probably looks like, just high fidelity textures and sort of realistic looking environments. But there's a lot more to it with the design of the enemies, the animation work, the cutscenes in between chapters. You get these different animation style cutscenes that it's just beautifully done. There's just very clearly a lot of work put into it, a lot of care as well. Not to say that there isn't for these other games, but I just think that it's really good to see Black Myth in here for art direction specifically. Best narrative is a bit of a weird one purely because of Silent Hill 2. I think that it's perfectly fine for a remake to be in these awards and get nominated for Game of the Year or Best Action or whatever, because a lot of the time from that original game, there is a vast difference of new things, new changes, new gameplay elements, whatever. From what I know, don't spoil it for me in the comments because I don't know 100%, but from what I know, the narrative from the original game, it's not changed. And if there are any differences, it's not overly drastic or anything. So it's a bit weird. The narrative specifically is still from 2001, and it's not Bloober's narrative. It is Team Silent's narrative. And so I kind of disagree with Silent Hill 2 being nominated, but I do think the narrative for the game in general is really fucking good. Like, it is award worthy, just not the remake because of the fact that it's not an original narrative or anything. At least with something like Final Fantasy VII, it's this reimagining that changes the original game. Other than that, I would almost vote for Hellblade 2, but I do sort of have issues with how it's paced. I'll eventually say it in a later video when I go over the games that I've finished for the year, but I think Hellblade 2 would have been much better as just a 2-hour film using the Unreal Engine itself as the visuals for it, because I think it runs into some pacing issues and sort of suffers from taking too long, really. And I know people complain about some games. I know people complain about Hellblade being too short. I was actually sitting there wishing it was shorter. Best game direction, I just want Balatro to win, just because that would be fucking awesome for this little indie game to come out on top amongst all these bigger budget, AAA games. How cool would that be? And finally, Game of the Year, same thing. The game that wins Best Direction is not necessarily the best game overall. So wouldn't be surprised if we see 2 different games win from the 2 categories. But again, if Balatro wins, that would be just really fucking exciting just to see this indie game come out on top. That's what I want to see. Even though I disagree with Shadow of the Erdtree being nominated in the first place, it is from just a design perspective and the game overall. It is really fucking solid. So wouldn't be surprised if that wins either. So yeah, there we go. Those are my opinions on the 2024 Game of the Year Awards. Pretty keen for this one. I know I think I said it last year. Always very excited to hear the orchestra that they do as well, where they combine the songs from each Game of the Year, and then they do like a little medley thing of all the soundtracks. So that's always exciting. And hopefully they've fixed how they paced out last year's Game of the Year awards and don't try to rush people off stage because they've only got like a minute, if that, to do their acceptance speech and everything. So hopefully it's all good. Issues aside, Jeff Keighley seems to always want to improve the format and do better things with it. So if anything does go wrong, I'm sure he'll do better next year. It's always exciting to see. But yeah, until the next video, have a good one.